Prior to starting the 2017 fall semester, I watched What the Health, which was a documentary found on Netflix that not only focused on the economic side of the food industry, but focused on the health side of the meat industry and how red meat, chicken, and all those kind of meats affect your health. The documentary was less about the animal cruelty as more about the effects on the environment and also the effects on a person's health. That being said, in the documentary, they also mentioned No Impact Man, which is another documentary and it covered the life of a man whose goal was to basically have a minimal carbon impact on the environment. This idea kind of sparked my interest, knowing that walking into the 2017 fall semester, I was going to be taking a class with Audrey and Katia that was going to be revolving around social issues, and I knew that I was going to have to be making a pledge of some sort, just knowing how I took ECMP 355 and ESSI 302. So that being said, I also prepared myself by wanting to become vegetarian to lessen my carbon impact. I was excited for this pledge because not only would I be truly stepping into the vegetarian route, which I have tried before, but it didn't last too long, but I was also extremely excited to see how I would change due to this experience. Basically, right when I made my pledge for ESST 317, I jumped in cold turkey. I basically cut out red meat, chicken, like any forms of meat. It was out of my diet right away. I found within the first couple of weeks, I was actually doing quite good for me. I was having better sleep. I was staying focused in class a lot more, and I just felt more energized and felt like I was more hydrated due to my increase of watery vegetables such as cucumbers and carrots and whatnot. However, shortly after these couple of weeks, I realized that I was losing a lot of weight and I was losing a lot of energy and motivation, it seemed like. And I first believed this to be a protein deficiency, which is common in vegetarian diets, which I researched on the internet, and also the minerals that I was losing when I wasn't eating meat. So then I started supplementing my body with omega-3s, protein powder that was vegan, and amino acids. The supplements didn't help to my advantage because it almost became physically difficult to eat, and I was starting to become concerned with the vegetarian diet that I was taking because I thought that I was not supplying my body with enough nutrients and not with enough calories. I also thought that my weight loss was being linked to muscle loss due to the lack of protein. However, I would later find out that the weight loss, the sleeping patterns, and just the general lack of motivation was linked to my anxiety and depression. That being said, I found it very difficult to eat due to this factor in my life, and I almost found it physically unbearing to eat in a way. So that is when I kind of took a break from my pledge because I was at the point where I would rather eat meat or something if I was able to eat meat that day. So I kind of took a break from the pledge. After a little while, I finally got help. I went to a doctor and got medication for the problems I was feeling. I was slowly starting to get better. However, right around came the discussion questions that we wanted to talk about in class, and I had a good discussion with my group that involved how carbon is affected by the importation of these foods that I was eating. The argument was that even though I was cutting out meat, I was still eating more food that doesn't necessarily grow anywhere close to here. So I was eating more cucumbers, but those cucumbers were not coming from Saskatchewan. They would be coming from wherever they were. I didn't research that part. But that kind of made me realize that I was not limiting my carbon usage as much as I thought I was before. There is a portion of the global greenhouse emissions that is linked to deforestation because of meat farms. But at the end of the day, I was still buying more products from around the world opposed to products that were closer to my home. Considering the interpersonal journey that I was on, I didn't necessarily want to just stop my pledge because it was linked to my school and I was going to be graded on this at some point. And after having the discussion conversation with my classmates, I came to the conclusion of changing my opinion. This opinion changed to having more awareness of where my food was coming from, not necessarily what my food was. I realized that if I wanted to decrease my carbon usage, I would have to buy locally or grow on my own. There was some point in the summer where I was growing a garden. I was growing tomatoes and potatoes, and I found that to be a very helpful experience, considering I was actually growing something for once, opposed to just buying from a grocery store. And I also thought that if I still wanted to eat meat, I could just simply buy locally, which would not only support my local community, but also would support the global greenhouse emissions by limiting the carbon usage due to transportation. And then overall, I realized that me becoming vegetarian was only impacting my health in a positive way, not necessarily my community and the environment that I live in. During this experience, I actually had a decent amount of friends that were not supportive of my decision. Not only were they unsupported of the health side of going vegetarian, but they were also unsupportive and didn't believe in the carbon side of why I was switching to this lifestyle. I found that their opinions didn't matter to me as much because as I'm getting older, I am also caring less about what people think, because I'm starting to become less influenced by the decisions of others. I found my parents were fairly supportive. My mother was making a majority of my meals, which were technically vegan, so that's even more of a plus, considering my busy school schedule. All of the busyness of this semester also made me take into account the busy lifestyles of teachers and how in the future, if I want to continue this lifestyle change, I will just need to manage my time a little bit better. I found this experience made me become more self-aware of my body, my state of mind, and it also helped me take action to help myself. In previous semesters where I've been affected by anxiety and depression, I just kind of shaked it off, and I knew that at this point, it was affecting my body and my willingness to do schoolwork, and I decided that I needed to actually do something about it. I also gained a better sense of my carbon usage when doing research on what meat actually affects the environment and how buying locally actually lessens your carbon usage despite the fact that you're still eating meat. Also, I researched a lot on the hunter-gatherer diet, which is the idea that prior to Europeans arriving to North America, there were people living in Saskatchewan and obviously surviving off of the land. And that being said, we do live in a somewhat habitable area where we could survive off of the food in our area. Overall, I very much enjoyed this experience. I want to continue this awareness. I want to start buying more locally, and I also want to start cooking my own food and also growing my own food because I know exactly where that food will be coming from and I know how much I will be affecting the environment.